we're going to talk about our child protection policy. At Protea Valley Church, we believe that all children belong to God, and therefore we take their safety seriously. We want them to be nurtured in a loving and safe environment, no matter who they are or where they come from. I'm going to highlight certain aspects of our child protection policy, but this document will also be available to you to download, and you do need to read through it. A child is defined as anyone who is under the age of 18. A younger child is defined as anyone who is in grade 5 or below, and a leader is anyone who is working with children. There is a full definition of what constitutes child abuse in the document, but basically it's anything that could entail sexual, emotional, physical, spiritual abuse, harassment, or neglect. You need to remember that as a leader, you are older than the child, bigger, stronger, and this puts you in a position of authority. Basically, abuse happens when there is a misuse of this power and authority. Our aim is to protect the child first of all, but also through this policy to protect our leaders from any misunderstandings or false accusations. On to the guidelines. Firstly, not all leaders are adults. We also allow teenage leaders who need to be 14 years or older. The next point would be consent forms. Written permission is required from parents if you are going to travel with the children. Next, we do not allow any form of corporal punishment. This is generally common sense stuff, but you can check the document again for details. If you are having trouble with an issue of discipline, please do call another adult leader to help you. The next point is that no bullying will be tolerated in any form. Next, the leaders are responsible for the safety of any children within your care. That's from the moment that they're dropped off by the parents to the moment that they leave again or are picked up by their parents. You are responsible that the environment and the activities that you are partaking in with the children are safe for them. The next point would be accommodation and bathrooms. This would apply to camps or any other activities that are taking place either on the church facilities or off the facility. So accommodation and bathrooms, boys and girls, must be separate. If it's not possible to have separate bathrooms, then an adult leader needs to control access to the bathrooms. We don't want anyone getting up to mischief. The next point, and this is very important, on the subject of contact between the child and the leader, you should never have any physical contact with a child in private. If you have permission from a parent to meet with their child one-to-one, then this should never happen behind closed doors. It should either be in a public place or where there are others around, or if the parent is present in some form, maybe observing from a distance. On to the point of the conduct of our leaders, you always need to make sure that you are dressing appropriately, speaking appropriately in terms of the language that you're using, that your behavior is appropriate, so no crude jokes or anything that might be construed as breaking the law or encouraging others to do what's wrong. And you should never allow others to behave badly either. If there is an incident of a child using bad language, swearing or bullying or anything like that, you need to report it to your ministry leader. Examples of what would be considered appropriate behavior would include high fives, a brief sideways hug, a pat on the shoulder. Basically, these should always be in public and appropriate to the child's age and their need. Try to read the situation and never force anything on a child. Onto the subject of social media, basically the same principles that apply to face-to-face meetings with a child apply to social media. That being that it should never be conducted in private, so no private messages or chats with a child. If you do have permission again from a parent to chat with their child one-to-one, then you need to keep a record of all these conversations, and basically you need to know that any elder or leader has the right to view those messages whenever they're asked to. This is for your protection as well as the child's. Be aware that a refusal to share messages with an elder or leader would be counted against you and does cast suspicion. Onto the subject of photographs. It's important for you to know that you are not allowed to take photos of younger children without written permission from their parents. Apart from that, there are a few other details that are important, and so you do need to refer to the document on this. One point that does need to be highlighted is that some children require their identity to be protected. You might not always know who these kids are, and so never identify a child on social media, especially if you're posting pictures. Don't write their name next to it. Any complaints or suspicions of abuse need to be reported. You can send an email directly to info@proteavalleychurch.org. But if you're in a situation where you feel that a child is in immediate danger, please do call the police. Lastly, we're going to talk about 3 different scenarios that you might encounter in the case of child abuse. Scenario 1. A child comes to you and tells you that they have been abused. Firstly, don't respond with obvious shock. You want to help make them feel safe and reassure them that they've done the right thing by telling you. Ask open-ended questions like, tell me what happened. Don't promise that you'll keep it a secret, because you will need to report any case of child abuse, but also don't share the information inappropriately. Scenario 2. If you suspect any incident of child abuse, you must report it. The details of how to do this are in the Child Protection Policy document. If it's suspected that the abuse might be coming from the child's family, then do not tell their parents. Leadership will then evaluate the report and decide what next steps must be taken. If there is legitimate cause for concern, the matter will be referred to a social worker. Scenario 3. If it is suspected that any form of child abuse has been perpetrated by a volunteer or staff member at Protea Valley Church, again, this must be reported to the authorities, and you can follow the same details that are laid out in the document. Apart from that, what you need to know is that the elders must lead the process, and that the parent and ministry leaders and the entire eldership must be informed. The church must comply with the state's requirements according to law. The suspect will immediately be placed on leave and step down from the ministry and may have no contact with the child or be on the premises until the investigation has been concluded. A pastoral visit must be arranged for the alleged perpetrator and the alleged victim should they require it. This is a pastoral visit and will not be part of the investigation. The eldership, together with the authorities, will determine the appropriate ongoing boundaries in response to the investigation. But any person found guilty of child abuse or misconduct under the law will be removed from working with children permanently. That's all for today. This has been some serious stuff, but we do thank you for helping us to keep our children safe.